Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. You know what? I messed up. I messed up on Robservations episode number 321. I screwed up. I was looking at my inputs and I had forgot to turn on these super chats. So the super chats you guys were sending me were not visible to my computer. Look, this January, I promise you, as I move forward and learn how to use this software better, these problems will be alleviated. So I'm doing my first companion video for Robservations. This is, of course, Robservations, a show about something, companion video for episode number 321. I hope I have not discouraged any of you for supporting the channel. But look at it this way. You're getting a special show just for your super chats. And I figured out how to put those super chats on the screen so I don't lose them. So, again, I sincerely apologize, and the support of this channel is obviously very important to me, and I want to make sure that everybody is given the... When you ask a question, you send in some money, well, you know what? I take that seriously. So I'm doing a companion video. I've done them for John before, but I've never done one for you guys for Robservations. So welcome. This is after 321 episodes, this is my first Robservations companion video. And it is for all the super chats I missed today. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. And as I learn to use the software better, check this out. Woo! On the screen, check out those super chats. The first one comes from James Lucas, who asks a question near and dear to my heart. James says, "Hey Rob, would you ever discuss George Romero's original zombie trilogy of Night, Dawn, and Day of the Dead? Why did these movies give me such a feeling of dread when I was a kid? Thanks and love the show." Well, James, as you know, I have to just say right off the bat, you and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. Absolutely, because to be honest, Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time. Now, I had seen Dawn of the Dead before I saw Night of the Living Dead, believe it or not. I saw Dawn of the Dead in the theater on opening day. I had read the Dawn of the Dead novelization before I'd seen the movie, believe it or not, by George Romero and Susanna Sparrow. And I couldn't believe it. Like, I'd heard of Night of the Living Dead. I'd seen pictures of it in magazines, but I just hadn't seen the movie yet. And I just thought, wow, I couldn't believe it. I was like, are they going to be able to show this violence? I mean, I won tickets to go see Dawn of the Dead. They were given to me by KYYX Radio, Seattle. And I saw Dawn of the Dead at my favorite theater at the UA 150, which was where Star Wars opened. And next to it, the adjoining theater was the UA 70. And Dawn of the Dead was, in fact, playing at the UA 70. I mean, it was a big deal. And my dad took me opening night because I couldn't go to the radio station screening because it was a school night. And I think it opened wide in 79. So I was 12. I think I was 12. And my dad had to take me, and I begged him. And I remember sitting next to a guy and a girl, and they were like on a date. They were boyfriend, girlfriend for a while, but I told them all about the movie before it started. I said, "You guys aren't going to believe what happens in this movie." And of course, it blew me away. I loved it. It was one of the first bootleg video cassettes I ever owned. A guy named Bud Warner got me the bootleg video cassettes, and they were split across 2 VHS tapes. So yes, I am a huge Romero fan. I ended up seeing Night of the Living Dead. It was one of the first movies I ever saw on home video. It was out on Media Home Entertainment because it was in the public. It had fallen into what's it called? You know, when it's why am I drawing a blank on it? But the rights had lapsed in a strange public domain. It had fallen into the public domain, and so Media Home Entertainment had put it out. And then, of course, I'd seen Dawn of the Dead literally 100 times. I'd memorized the whole movie. I'd seen Night of the Living Dead probably 50 times, and Day of the Dead, when it opened, was a big deal. Now, it wasn't as big of a movie as it was supposed to be, but I love those films, and one day I think I will talk about them. Now, Ken Foree, the actor who stars as Peter, the SWAT officer, the black SWAT officer in Dawn of the Dead, I actually got to work on a movie that he worked on, which was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface, and there's an early episode of Robservations where I talk about a story about what I learned working with him, and it was an important lesson to learn, and I should have heeded it. But yes, first of all, one day maybe I'll just do a whole show on my love of those movies. But I love those films, and the reason that I loved the things, like you said that your feelings the movies gave you such a feeling of dread. I think for me too, even Dawn of the Dead, with all of its satiristic elements and how some of it was played for, even the violence was played comedically. I think that what it unsettled me a lot. As a matter of fact, when I was a kid, there's a Styx album called The Grand Illusion, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite records when I was a kid. It's got the song "Come Sail Away." I'm sailing away, set an open course for the Virgin Sea. There's a song on the second side of that album called "Castle Walls." Once in a dream are these only these castle walls. I don't know why, but whenever I heard that song, I thought about Dawn of the Dead, and I played that album all the time because I was a huge Styx fanatic when I was younger. And I still love Styx, but I kind of tuned out after their failed concept album, Mr. Roboto. Yeah, I love those films so much. I have great big love for them. And of course, everything from the Walking Dead comic, which was totally inspired by George Romero, to all the TV shows, to all the zombie movies, and all the various things that we have. Man, did I love Dawn of the Dead. I love Dawn of the Dead so much. And Night of the Living Dead's great too, and especially the social commentary for when it was made. One of the most horrifying endings of any movie, because you've got your black protagonist who survived the night is gunned down by an overzealous posse thinking that everybody on the countryside has been zombified. I mean, what a killer ending. And then, of course, Day of the Dead, to see what's become of civilization, how the military and the scientists and the uneasy truce between them, what that's all led us to. I mean, the films, they never cease to, even as many times as I've seen all three, they never cease to stop. I'm enthralled and entranced every time I watch those movies. And I think the reason they give you a sense of dread is, like with me, the idea of our great civilization falling, especially Dawn of the Dead, does such a great job of showing just how quickly the thin veneer of civilization will exist before it's ripped away from us. And very effective, amazing films, and I dearly, dearly love them. Duroc Media sent in a super chat. I love this. Rock on, Rob. Rock on, dude. All right. Motley Crue. Duroc Media, thank you for supporting the channel. I will continue to rock on as much as I can rock on. In the still of the night, I hear the Uruk-hai crawling, scratching at my front door. I know it's not Uruk-hai, but I like that. But anyway, so thank you. Thank you for that. I will try and continue to rock on. Calvin Bose is here. Calvin Bose is a longtime imagination connoisseur, and he has a son who's 4 years old, Braxton, who is a huge Star Trek fan. And if you go to the Burnettwork.net website and you look up in our imagination connoisseur gallery or any of the letters, you can see Braxton in his Star Trek glory. Calvin says, I miss movie theaters showing cartoons before the movie and letting you sit through a film again if you wanted to. Calvin, how old are you? Are you older than me? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I miss that too. I think it's quite a bummer that we don't get to do that. But I mean, now we get trailers and things, and I like trailers, but I do. I mean, I used to sit through movies twice, when I was a kid. Star Wars, I mean, much to my parents' chagrin, but I was lucky. I started using the public transportation system in Seattle when I was 10 years old, thanks to my friend Jeff Swafford, and we would go everywhere. So on summer days, we could ride the bus almost anywhere for very little money, and you could sit in a theater multiple times. There was a theater in Crossroads Cinema, a real soda stick thing. It was, when I say soda stick, it's a soda stick grindhouse. I mean, it was actually a pretty nice theater, but it wasn't exactly the most well-maintained theater. I think it was probably an independent theater. I didn't pay much attention when I was a kid. It's still there, but soda stick, meaning so many people had spilled Cokes on the floor, it had a perpetual stick. Your feet would stick to the ground. That's what soda stick was. And we would go to that theater, and you could see multiple movies and sneak in and stay there all day. Nobody really cared, but that's how I got to see movies like, Dressed to Kill or something when I wasn't I wasn't supposed to. But yes, Calvin, I do miss those days. I do. Jet Screamer sent in a super chat saying Rocky Horror was the first movie allowed to alter the 20th Century Fox logo. That is interesting. Is that true? I'm going to have to take your word for it. What Jet Screamer is referring to, of course, is today it was announced that Disney is retiring Fox from 20th Century Fox. They're going down to 21st Century Studio. They're going to change it to, actually, here's what they had said. They had said Disney drops the name, Fox name will rebrand as 20th Century Studios and Searchlight Pictures. Now, what's really interesting about that is the 20th Century Fox logo, which is around for over a century. I had wrongfully said that they were going to get rid of the logo and they're going to get rid of the Fox fanfare, the famous Fox fanfare. But then I was reminded, because I went off half-cocked, I didn't do my research, I didn't really read in deep the article. They're not going to get rid of the fanfare and they're not going to get rid of the logo. And here is what the 20th Century Fox logo used to look like in the 30s. So that's pretty cool. And they're going to keep that. They'll probably do a different variation on that. So I am glad, Jet, that you brought that up. I didn't realize that was the first time the logo was altered. That's very interesting. I should know that. A longtime imagination connoisseur and member of this, the Post-Geek Singularity, is here. JB Bonifacio sent in a super chat. He says, I'm stoked for Rise of the Resistance this weekend. What JB is referring to is Galaxy's Edge, Disney's Galaxy's Edge, that opened at both Disneyland and Disney World, had problems when it first opened. Their big ride, their big showcase ride, Rise of the Resistance, which is by all accounts one of the great theme park rides ever, has in fact it's opening. It already opened at Disney World, but it opens today, Friday, January 17th. It opens today. I am stoked. I'm not going to get there this weekend. I have not seen Galaxy's Edge. I was waiting to go until Rise of the Resistance is open, and Elizabeth loves Disneyland, so we're probably definitely going to go. I'm sure this weekend is going to be insane, but I am glad that you are going to go and that you're excited, because I'm totally excited. I'm totally excited too. So we shall see. I'm stoked. So Midnight's Edge After Dark is here. Midnight's Edge After Dark, and says one step forward, one giant leap backwards. Everybody, I love the Midnight's Edge guys. By the way, Midnight's Edge did me a great service. They put a compilation video together of me explaining the entire the entire Duel of the Fates script. They did a supercut of me talking about it and cut it together in order. I love the guys at Midnight's Edge. Leave it up to them. That amazing stuff. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, Midnight's Edge. I don't know what one step forward, one giant leap backwards means. Maybe there was news that has broken that I did not see, which is a bummer. But I'm sure I will find out. But all of you, head on over to Midnight's Edge, get on over to their YouTube channel, and you can watch a supercut of me. And by the way, do I get residuals? Miranda Duvall is here. Miranda Duvall says, Tom Paris was way cooler than Nick Locarno. So it worked out. I love Tom Paris. I love his retro collecting. What other Star Trek character has a CRT TV? Miranda, first of all, I mean, Nick Locarno was just kind of a douche. But he could do that starburst maneuver, so he wasn't. What Miranda, I love. Miranda, thank you, by the way, for supporting the channel. What Miranda is talking about is, everyone knows that this week was the 25th anniversary of the debut of Star Trek Voyager. And what was really interesting about that is that, of course, the Tom Paris character, played by Robert Duncan McNeil, was just a thinly veiled copy of his character, Nick Locarno, from the Next Generation episode, The First Duty. And yet, probably it had something to do, I would just assume that it had something to do with residuals. They didn't want to pay the original writer or something like that. But, yeah, very interesting. And Tom Paris is basically the Nick Locarno character, which is pretty obvious. And, yeah, so Is he cooler? I didn't know that Robert Duncan McNeil collected retro technology. I think that's really cool. But Miranda, thank you very much for that super chat. Very much appreciated. Then we have Martini McFly. Thank you for the very generous super chat. Martini says, Voyager always has a special place in my heart, as it was the only thing on when I got home from working in a movie theater. Broke in my 20s. Dinner was a giant bag of leftover popcorn and Voyager before bed. I miss those days. Well, Martini McFly, apparently you're supporting this channel, so thank you very much. I think those days did you well, and thank you again for supporting the channel. But, you know, I love hearing the personal stories of what Star Trek means to people, and the fact that that Voyager evokes that kind of a memory. I mean, man, we've all been there, whether it was ramen. I love the fact that you were living off popcorn from the movie theater you worked at, because popcorn you could get away with. Like, you couldn't steal candy because that was accounted for. You couldn't take cups because they knew how many cups there were. But popcorn you could take. So I'm with you there. I think that's amazing. What a great story. Voyager and popcorn before bed. Those were the days. Can you believe Voyager's 25 years old? I can't. That's crazy to me. Craziness. Roger Green sent in a super chat. Roger Green, thank you. I think I'm getting it. What's funny is Roger Green says, I love how your microphone filter shield is aligned with your shoulders. Crazy, but I noticed. I saw a movie in the 90s where an alien on a hangar deck had a corpse attached to his guts by its intestines. Any ideas? Wow, a movie where an alien on a hangar deck. Well, it sounds to me like what you're talking about is Aliens, the climax of Aliens, where it's Bishop who gets ripped in half by the alien queen in the hangar deck on the Sulaco after they get their dropship up from the colony at LV-426. That, if I had to say, that sounds like what that is. I don't know if I'm correct on that, but if it's not that, maybe anybody have any ideas? That's the first thing that comes to mind, though, is that it might be Aliens. And what a great scene that is. Brian Erdy sent in a super chat. He says, I think it all goes back to JJ, and it's so frustrating. When I interviewed him for the Rise of Skywalker junket, it was all I could do to be professional and not say, do you like ruining things that we all love? Well, yeah. So you just saw JJ. I honestly don't, to be honest, I don't know JJ Abrams. He's never did any harm to me personally or anybody I know, but I'm just not a fan of his work. And I don't understand, his films are, it's like he has these images in mind and he shoots these great images, but do they work? I don't think I haven't seen, he's made 5 science fiction movies: Star Trek Into Darkness, Super 8, and of course, Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. And I just don't think they're good narratives. They're either he's recreating cool pre-production artwork, and it doesn't hang together as stories. And I watch things like, I don't understand. If you watch Star Trek 09, there's something in Star Trek 09 that pretty much sums up everything I don't like about J.J. Abrams as a storyteller. So in that movie, Kirk is being disciplined after the most ridiculous Kobayashi Maru scene, but he's being disciplined in front of his classmates at Starfleet Academy. And at the Academy, they find out that Vulcan is being attacked. Vulcan, how far away is Vulcan? One thing about the Star Trek universe is you can't get from Earth to another planetary system, even at high warp speeds, in seconds, or even minutes or hours. It takes a while. But in that in Star Trek 09, when they find out Vulcan is being attacked, they apparently have enough time to get the entire Starfleet Academy mobilized, get them on shuttles to their ships, give people places to go and things to do, and then they get to Vulcan within, a couple hours? I mean, that could never happen. It could never, and even when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, wait a minute, are you telling me that you're on Earth and you hear that there is a battle happening at Vulcan. So you're going to take Starfleet Academy students that are in the middle of a disciplinary hearing, and you're going to be able to not only get them to their ships and organize everybody, but get them into battle in a different planetary system in how long? I mean, and when I watch his movies, I'm like, that's not how the world works. I mean, things take time, but it's like, oh, no one cares. I mean, it's one thing if you're writing a television script, you go to a commercial break and you come back and it's the next day or hours later, but not in a cinematic narrative. It doesn't work. And I find most of his narrative storytelling, it doesn't work for me. I mean, I'm sure it might work for other people, but I find his films are just, they're cliche-ridden sequences from other movies transposed into whatever it is he happens to be working on. And I mean, you don't insult people when you're on a you can't, but it's incredibly frustrating to watch those movies because of the lack of narrative cohesion. I don't dig it. Mark Chure sends in a super chat and says, I disagree. With a Mary Sue, woman of color lead, superficial storytelling with a diverse writer's room, Star Trek Discovery is absolutely commenting on today's culture. It's so allegorical, even the creators don't know it. Yeah, well, at what Mark is referring to on today's episode, on episode 321 of Robservations, I was reading an article and how they keep talking about their leaning into inclusivity. And, you can lean into whatever you want, but the very basis should be, you've got to give us great characters and great stories. If you don't have great characters and great stories, part of the Burnett axiom, you don't put your universe, you don't put your agenda, you don't put those before your characters and your stories. Whatever it is, whatever your trip is, whatever you want to build into your stories, whether it's inclusivity, if that's what you want to make your stories about, do that. Don't be didactic about it. It should be just matter of fact. I mean, all this talk about inclusivity and storytelling, did anyone ever go back and watch Deep Space Nine? A show that was incredibly diverse. It didn't knock you over the head and say, look at how diverse we are. It was just part of the show's DNA. And really, it's really frustrating to watch. Echo Base Network is here. Echo Base Network says, Cobra Kai did a good job with old characters. I agree. Echo Base. For those of you who might not have seen Cobra Kai, it's a TV series that has been derived out of the old Karate Kid film. They brought back the actors. It's terrific. And if talk about how do we set up, or how do you want to delve into or look into how an old program is revived, look no further than that. I mean, they did such a great job with Cobra Kai. Wonderful, just wonderful. And good call, Echo Base Network. It's the way to go. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, such respect for the original material, and it's fantastic. Zeus the All-Powerful sent a $5 super chat. You said yesterday that you can get anything in Hollywood. Can you get the actual movie treatments that George Lucas sold to Disney for the sequel trilogy? Well, Zeus the All-Powerful, I don't know. I mean, that it might take a while, but I would assume somebody somewhere has them. And I do believe that everything can be gotten at some point. I mean, it really can. Like, everything can, in fact, be gotten. It's just this question of who you know, how well you know them. Maybe those will show up someday. Although they might be watermarked or something, you can't share them, but somebody can get them. I mean, I'm not looking for them. I don't know. I don't even know if there really are treatments. I don't know. Maybe George Lucas did write them. I have no idea what they are. I'd have to know what to ask. Yeah. Brandon Valenzuela says, some say the space ribbon is still out there. Brandon's obviously talking about the Nexus from Star Trek Generations. Yeah. They've actually written books about that. And yeah. I mean, I'm sure it is. I would not say it's not. Who am I to say no, that it's not out there? It could very well be out there. I wouldn't want to say that. Alexander Wilson, our old friend who's here a lot, Sports Channel, says Better Call Saul is ending with season 6. How do you think it will end? And does the Breaking Bad universe continue after it was over? Gosh, to be honest with you, Alexander, I have not caught up with Better Call Saul. I waited to watch Breaking Bad until I had the whole season or the whole series, and I watched it all. I binged the whole thing on Blu-ray. So I watched the first season of Better Call Saul, but I have not caught up. So I can't effectively answer your question. But I do think, you mean, does the Breaking Bad universe, do they continue with something like El Camino? I don't know. I think after Better Call Saul, maybe they'll do another spinoff, but I think it's probably going to end. I think from what I know of Better Call Saul, and certainly what I know of Breaking Bad, one of the great accomplishments in modern television history. So good. So I would imagine I think it's going to end. I think that people want to move on and do something else, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Echo Base Network sends in another super chat. If Gene Roddenberry was still alive, do you see CBS doing the same thing Disney did with George Lucas and not use his story treatments or ideas if he handed them material? That's a really good question. I think here's the reality of life in Hollywood. If anybody comes and takes over something, and it's to make a new show, like make new Star Trek, like all of the great writers of Star Trek, like I talked about, Renee Echevarria, Naren Shankar, Brandon Braga, Ron Moore, they're all out there still working. Doug Drexler is still out there from the art department, the guy who created designed the NX-01. Mike and Denise Akuta, who basically were the cornerstones of the art department for Star Trek. They're all still out there, but nobody wanted them. Once you've got a company, if you're a secret hideout, what you do is you employ the people that you've worked with. You've got a team in place. You don't want other people that worked on some previous incarnation to come in and work on the new incarnation, because you want to make it your own. And I think that that's just the reality of life. So, I think they would do the same thing. They would take Gene Roddenberry's treatments, and it's the way, look, Paramount treated Gene Roddenberry that way. He didn't like movies like Star Trek V. He didn't think that they should make it. They listened to what he said, and ultimately he would get paid off. He made like $1 million per movie, and then they went off and made the movie. And that's what Gene Roddenberry got. They didn't listen to him anymore. And people get older and they change. I understand you've got to keep things relevant for the modern age and keep it going. You really do. And I totally understand why they feel that way. It's just kind of the way of the world, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, everyone, by the way, Echo Base Network reminded me I missed Super Chats. I screwed up today. I did not have my Super Chats coming in, so I apologize, and I apologize to everybody who supports the channel. What you guys do for the channel it's very meaningful to me, and I would not want to think that anyone's support was slighted in any way. So I very much apologize, but I have to say this was kind of fun. More content for the channel. I hope everybody likes that, and it really means a lot when you guys support the Burnettwork here on YouTube, or you go to the website and support it there. And I'm not just talking about financial, although that's nice, but it's also the support by writing in letters, by sending in pictures and things you want to share at the Imagination Connoisseur Gallery, the 3-word movie reviews you guys all send in. It's very much appreciated, and I want to thank everybody for their ongoing support. It was fun. This is my first. Hopefully I won't need to do another one of these, but as far as things go, thank you for indulging me and allowing me to do my first Robservations companion video with your missed Super Chats. I will not miss them again. I found out what the problem was. I didn't even know. As you all know, I'm getting to learn this new software. Not that it's an excuse, but all of a sudden I'm like, wow, doing this stuff live is rough. John Campea has mastered it. I am not so fortunate. So I appreciate you understanding. Thank you. And as always, have a better day.